started with a glimpse at the future of Earth, and ended up becoming one of the most intriguing plots of the series. Today, I will be talking about the Future Shark Trilogy, an Archie comic saga. As it was explained in previous videos about the Archie Adventures, the first 4 issues of this volume were adaptations of the second season of the Fred Wolf cartoon. Starting with episode 5, this book had all original adventures and started its own universe, but that doesn't mean those first 4 issues didn't happen. In fact, they would influence another trilogy that will be left for another video. Issue 4 ended with the Shredder escaping with one of the 3 eyes of Sarnath, a plot that was very important for the TV show, but was completely abandoned in the comics. Quickly after that issue, the Turtles started meeting a lot of new characters. On issue 7, they fought in the intergalactic wrestling asteroid, a story that was covered in this other video. But when Cuddly sent the Turtles back to Earth, he accidentally returned them to the future of Earth. It was 100 years in the future, when the effects of a still ongoing climate change increased the seawater levels and flooded New York. Cuddly told them that this didn't need to be their future and returned them to their time, but this wouldn't be the end of this future. Soon after this adventure, the Turtles crossed paths with Hantan while searching for the Shredder's hideout. Surrounded by rats, they met Archie Comics' version of the Rat King. Hantan had the power to control the rats, a very powerful pest that, weaponized, could destroy civilization. Leonardo recognized the great disadvantage they were facing and treated the Rat King with respect. After leaving his realm, the Rat King never showed up again. But we do know that he had a long life, as he was still alive in the future of Earth. Because of climate change, civilization and rats had to share the same spaces, leading to a resurgence of rodent-spread diseases. This made Donatello join forces with Manx, a mutated cat who was educated at MIT and later interned at NASA. Together, they created an army of robots to rid New York of the millions of rats that were spreading diseases. But this was a declaration of war in the eyes of Hantan, and a battle took place that lasted for days and ended only with the Rat King's retreat. After the battle, Manx lost himself in his research and took robotics to its next stage, biomechanical integration. He began experimenting with cybernetics, meshing flesh with circuitry within his own brain. His goal was to seek immortality, but he quickly went to extremes and started calling himself Verminator-X. Donatello, on the other hand, became interested in time travel. He was now living in the luxury of Turtle Co., the company he founded after inventing so many patents. He used the crystal converger from those early issues of the book to find the second eye of Sarnath and use it as a power source. While his time slip machine was effective at first, the eye of Sarnath wasn't powerful enough to sustain more time displacements. Donatello archived the time slip for a while, and before he knew it, it got stolen by the highly evolved shark known as Armaggon. Triggered by this event, Donatello felt like he needed to give time travel another chance, so he started working on a second machine. Armaggon met Verminator-X at a bar, and when he told him about the time slip, Verminator told him that it was running low on power. The Eye of Sarnath wouldn't last long. Armaggon decided to travel to the past, to the end of issue 4, and take Shredder and the first Eye of Sarnath from the timeline. When Shredder and Armaggon returned to the future, the time slip exploded. Now they had the energy, but they needed another time slip. Suspecting that the Turtles would have another time slip by then, Armaggon, Verminator-X, and the Shredder attacked them at their headquarters. They stole the time slip, they kidnapped Leonardo and Michelangelo, and in an explosion, Raphael lost an eye. Knowing that the Eye of Sarnath wouldn't be enough to power the time slip forever, the 3 criminals started looking for additional power sources. For reasons that were never satisfyingly explained, Shredder and Verminator-X went back to the present to steal the Black Stone of Mecca. Motivated by Verminator's goal of immortality, they were also planning on finding the White Stone as having both stones would grant them immortality, or so the legend said. But after stealing the Black Stone, they crossed paths with the turtles in the desert, and Shredder couldn't resist the temptation of kidnapping an unconscious Splinter. The turtles figured out what Shredder was up to, and they went to rescue their master. Shredder and Verminator were waiting for the time slip to open when the turtles interrupted them. Before Shredder could escape to the future, the turtles reminded him of how he owed them his life after they saved him from the slavery of Krang. That is a story explained in this other video. Shredder acknowledged his debt to them and freed Splinter. The two villains then jumped back to the future. Fortunately, Ninjara was able to replace the Black Stone with a regular stone during the fight. But this adventure introduced a possible plot hole. If this Shredder was the one from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures number 4, then he hasn't lived through that last Krang story yet. My personal theory is that Shredder knew about it, or that he simply improvised, not to give away that he was time displaced. You could also propose the theory that a new timeline was created, but as it would be later established in other time-traveling stories, all the characters were always on the same timeline. But leave your theories below. Anyway, Armaggon was also in the past, scavenging nuclear fuel and other things that were left by Null in the ocean floor. He got into a fight with Man-Ray, who he already knew from the future. Armaggon demonstrated to have control over other sharks, becoming Man-Ray's clear nemesis, as that character couldn't communicate with sharks. A new mutant came to his rescue, Murdude. But when Armaggon attempted to jump into the time slip, Murdude tried to stop him and ended up being kidnapped by Armaggon into the future. Back in the future, Donatello created a new time slip, this time powered by electricity. Yes, that was also an option. Expensive, but certainly simpler than stealing relics from the past. Donatello and Raphael visited the past to bring the turtles, Splinter and Ninjara to help them in the future. On the villain side, Armaggon was able to make some changes to the time slip, with some things that he brought from the past: nuclear fuel, bones of the Roswell alien, and Hitler's brain, which is a whole topic for another video. And despite the Shredder's failure at capturing the Black Stone, they were able to find and use the White Stone to power the time slip. The turtles attacked Armaggon's headquarters and forced him into using a huge battle armor against them. During the fight, Armaggon escaped in a time slip. Leonardo went behind him, and both present and future Raph, plus future Donnie, went after them, not knowing they were about to get stranded on the other side after the destruction of the time slip. On the other side of the time slip was Thanacia, a place that, unknown to them, was the far future of Earth, way after all the ice melted. Back at the headquarters, Michelangelo, Ninjara, and Splinter were surrounded by rats. It was Hantan, still looking for revenge against them, and apparently working with the Shredder. Present Donatello stopped working on the time slip to find the kidnapped Leo and Mikey from the future to help them in the fight. But the fight was short. Michelangelo, knowing that the Rat King could control the rats with his mind, simply knocked him out. With the help of Splinter and Ninjara, they also defeated Shredder and Verminator-X, but the Rat King wasn't completely out, and he started controlling Splinter. Future Leonardo and Michelangelo came to the rescue and stopped Splinter from attacking present Mikey. Verminator-X was still fighting. Murdude, who was recently rescued by Donnie, saw that the rats were attacking again, and that Verminator was armed and dangerous. So he forced an attack from him, which damaged the underwater lab walls, and all the rats were forced out with the pressurized water. This group eventually rescued the other group with the other time slip, leaving Armaggon behind in that far future of Earth. The character would come back later in the Murdude miniseries. Before returning the present-day turtles to the past, Splinter asked them why they brought them to the future. Donatello said he missed them and he needed their help. But after they left, there was a hint that perhaps the turtles knew something more that they couldn't say to their past selves. This story had 3 continuations. One was Terracide, where the future turtles traveled to the past to help themselves against Maligna's invasion, right after the murder of the mighty Mutanimals. You can check more about that saga in this video, and in this video. The second story was Dreamland. It is also a time travel adventure against Verminator-X. I will soon do a video on that story. And the last saga was supposed to be Forever War, the story that couldn't get published because the book was cancelled. Shredder and the Rat King would have come back in it. One issue was completed over the years, and a second issue was scripted by Steve Murphy. The rest of that story was adapted by Andrew Modine and Chris Allen for a non-canon, limited miniseries. But until Forever War gets officially published, the next appearance of the Shredder would be in the Year of the Turtle miniseries. Whether this Shredder was one who went to the future or the one who survived the attack from Krang, it's up to your imagination. The Future Shark Trilogy introduced the Future Turtles to the lore, and many of the elements in this story made it into other versions of the Turtles, including Mirage Comics. And yes, I will be doing a video on Armaggon very, very soon. Thanks for watching.